Hi, all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy, and the subjects can get saucy. So, if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted chats with some of the most interesting culinary voices in the American South. This region is one of the country's vacation and retirement playgrounds. But beyond the warm weather and beautiful scenery, there's a rich culture steeped in community and often dark and complicated history, and plenty of innovation among the tradition. I'm Stephanie Burt, and I've spent a career covering this region for magazines, newspapers, and websites. And to me, the best introduction to the American South is through its food culture and the growers and makers who make it delicious. I invite you to come on the road with me from the Appalachian Mountains to the clear waters of the Gulf of Mexico and everywhere in between. I'm always hungry for that next bite, thirsty for the next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is supported today by Stolon Food Lab in Charleston, South Carolina. This hidden gem of a space is tucked into a former machine shop just minutes from the hustle and bustle of King Street. The lab is a beautiful, calm oasis, and I'm so fortunate to be working with them to host Southern Fork Test Kitchen experiences. This is a setting that's centered around all things culinary. From testing and workshopping to cooking and chatting over a good meal, Stolon Food Lab is one of the most unique and thoughtful small event spaces in a city known for its events. The Food Lab is filled with natural light, plenty of space to work and mingle, and an aesthetic that will add a relaxed elegance to any gathering. While I can't wait to welcome you into this space, I want you to know it's not exclusive to the trade. Stolon Food Lab welcomes inquiries about how you might be able to host your next gathering there too. Visit stolonfoodlab.com, that's STOLON foodlab.com, to get the conversation started. See you at the lab soon. Columbia, South Carolina's Main Street architecture still has much of the charm of a mid-century movie set. There are jewelry stores, restaurants, hotels, and gift shops in buildings that range from the turn of the 20th century to modern day. Tucked in among the hustle and bustle is Lula Drake Wine Parlor, which 8+ years ago was just another dusty building awaiting renovation. Now, it is a gilded lily that comes alive at night like the culinary theater it is. Sommelier Tim Gardner knows his role as the lead actor, greeting guests in a well-tailored sport coat or sliding behind the bar to offer a taste of champagne with a twinkle in his eye. The crowd fills all available seats as plates of pasta roll out of the kitchen and dusk tucks in the windows at the front of this long, narrow space. In a city that still often struggles to know its own culinary personality, Lula Drake is a self-assured wine parlor with a true welcoming air. In 2023, it was nominated for Outstanding Hospitality by the James Beard Foundation, and this year, not only was it named one of the friendliest places in the South by Southern Living, Lula Drake won the James Beard Award for Outstanding Wine Program. It all comes back to Tim's love of wine and interest in inviting more people to love it too. And that goes way beyond the liquids in the bottles behind the bar. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Tim.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and here is inside Lula Drake on a Monday afternoon. It is very quiet here, which is rarely the case when I'm in Lula Drake. And number two, I don't have wine. And that is very rare.
That's a shame.
Lula Drake. But it is a Monday, 1 p.m. We are working. And we're not in Europe, so no wine.
No wine today.
I know. But nevertheless, it is Colombia, which I know you're a native. You grew up here. And still now, Colombia can't really shake this old tagline. I mean, it was a famous tagline called Famously Hot, because Colombia is, in some ways, the hottest place in the state. So it's a heat advisory. It's Main Street. It's Monday. What are we drinking here? Can you pick us a wine?
Yes, either a white or a rosé, maybe something sparkling, maybe a Cremant. There's one wine that sticks in my head right now that we started carrying. It's called Celine, and it's a blend of 3 grapes, 2 white grapes and a red grape. Incredibly refreshing, nice acidity, something you'd want to sit out on the patio with and just sip away.
Yeah, and you can put an ice cube in that in Colombia, right?
You could do that anywhere, I guess.
You can do that as long as Tim's not around.
Oh, no.
Well, I know that, like, wine is a very specific thing. And also Colombia is an old school place. And so this is like old fashioned country, bourbon country, Tito's and soda country. What caught you by storm that made you go down this wine rabbit hole?
Well, here in Colombia, it's exactly what you said. A lot of bourbon drinkers, a lot of beer drinkers. And for me, that was the land of opportunity. Obviously, we have some great restaurants. They have great wine lists, but I wanted to do something that was a little different. Some of the wines that I love and share those with people in a unique space.
How did you first get interested in wine as a drinker?
So I was raised in a family of teetotalers.
Me too.
Okay, yeah. So I mean,
it's the wild, wild west when you start imbibing because you don't have any history with any of it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so, my first encounter with it was as a teenager, drinking beer behind the house or something. And I really didn't get into wine until I moved to California. I had a degree from Winthrop College in theater, and I got a job in Houston, Texas.
So many people in theater end up in food and beverage, don't they?
Yeah, it's like you choose the 2 professions where you're guaranteed not to make any money.
I'm an English major, so I'm right there with you.
Oh, okay. But anyway, I got a job as an actor, actually a full-time actor in Houston, Texas. I auditioned for a pilot that was going to be shooting in LA, and I made it to the finals, and they said, you need to come out. So I was out there for a couple of weeks. They were still trying to decide. And so I just decided I was going to stay and give it a shot. And did that for a couple of years. Did some things, I had some interesting jobs.
Yeah. Did you get the pilot?
No, they didn't even shoot it.
Oh,
but I did I got a recurring role on a soap. I got, those things that you look back on now and they just make me laugh because, I see cuts from it with my mullet and all. The victim of the 90s, early 90s, late 80s.
The mullet's back.
Yeah. Fiercely.
But anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up in LA and I started working for Don Krendler. His family actually opened the 21 Club in New York. Mm-hmm. And he had moved from New York to LA and started 21 West, which really catered to celebrities and things like that. So I was exposed to things that just blew my mind. Enormous wine cellars. And so I started really paying attention to wine at that point. Mm-hmm. So then I got into grad school at UCLA. I wanted to be a film director. And I would spend my summers up in Northern California. And I would just do whatever I could do for anybody for free. And so long as I had a place to stay, it was awesome. And that's kind of how I fell into it. And I've had these 2 dueling careers my entire life. I have a production company where we shoot documentaries and commercials up and down the East Coast. And now I have Lula Drake. And I'll tell you that Lula Drake now is really my entire focus.
Your main gig.
Yes.
Your main gig.
Yeah.
Well, I did not know that about you in acting, but it makes complete sense. And I think that those of us that have, I was in drama in high school. I know exactly what this is, you're putting on a performance every night. The doors open, you're pulling back the curtains here at Lula Drake.
Showtime.
And it's showtime. And you get the chance to do it again, just like a show, but you know that one performance is the one performance, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have found a lot of joy in food here, but I have also found a lot of resistance to anything new. And those maybe are a Venn diagram crossover. That's not the same, but we're still in one of the largest public university towns in the South.
Yeah.
And so you've got a lot of like international palates. You've got a lot of people that have lived in other areas that are coming in to work and attend the university. How did you start to win Columbia over with Lula Drake? I would love to know, because I'm rolling in and it's won.
Yeah.
It's already won. It's packed.
Well, thank you. I remember back, we're coming up on our 8th year in November. We'll be 8 years old. It has changed greatly in this town since then. And when I opened, I knew that there was going to be some resistance to what I was doing. Wine in general can be very territorial, especially coming up. That was really towards the end of the Robert Parker era.
Right,
but the people that were going out and spending money were doing, were ordering the wines that he liked, because that was wine education in the United States mostly, but especially in South Carolina and in Columbia particularly.
So it was about collection
Rather
than exploration.
And massive reds.
Yes.
If you didn't have the brands that they wanted, you probably weren't going to last. And so I knew the kind of wines that I wanted to sell here, and really focusing.
And before we get into how it happened, can you talk a little bit about those wines that you wanted to sell?
Yeah. So I focus on wines that are sustainable, organic, and biodynamic. And the reason for that is that I spent 3 years blending wines, making wines in Spain for an import company. So I'd be there for 3 weeks, come back for a week. My wife hated this.
I wouldn't hate this. Can you get me in? This sounds really good.
Yeah, it's tough on a marriage, I'll tell you that. But it was, oh my gosh.
Well, I'm not married, so it's sounding better and better.
It was a great time, and I learned so much. And I got to see the good, the bad, and the awful. I learned so much about like the wines that people are drawn to because of marketing and that kind of thing. A lot of those wines are manipulated to taste the same year in, year out, and Mother Nature does not provide that.
Right. And they're manipulated with wood chips. They're manipulated with acid, like a citric acid,
yes.
and a lot of other things that are also large vats and a lot of different grapes. So that's a whole other show, and I'm going to link some other wine shows that we go into that a little bit more.
People need to talk about that more, need to know more about it.
Yeah.
It's no different than the food you eat.
I didn't know that, and I didn't really even think about that, but the Southern Fork and interviewing people through the years has really educated me about that.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
You have these biodynamic wines.
Yes. So I had these wines, and the turning point for me was whenever I was in a situation where I was forced in that job to try to make a wine that would fit a certain profile. And so it was a Chardonnay, actually. And I knew there was no chance of that working because of the terroir that we were in. The fruit was not going to provide that. And so then the guy in the white coat would go, I'll be right back. Go away for 10 minutes, come back. And he's added acid. He's done all these different things. And I just felt like, oh my God, this is not something I want associated with my name. This is not who I am. That was the turning point for me. And I came back and I talked to Lori, my wife, and I said, I just don't want to do this. I love wine. I want to continue to love it, and I want to be on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm. And so then you have these wines. You have this passion. And then you go, hi, Columbia. Guess what?
That, because I had my other job and I was working full time there too, the fact that I had that really helped me, because my wife said, well, what if nobody wants these wines? What are you going to do? And I said, well, we'll close. And I meant it. And we both kind of laughed. I could tell she was horrified, but I really felt like that if this wasn't going to work, I wasn't going to change what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. You aren't lowest common denominator situations.
Exactly.
That is so telling in the world of food creativity, beverage creativity. And it's because, I hear so many chefs say, but I can't put that on the menu. The people won't order that. You can invite them to. Right?
Exactly.
So how did you invite people into this world and create a community space? It's not everybody in Columbia. You're not here for everyone in Columbia.
I think it's twofold. This building itself has a unique history, which I can tell you about later, but there was a lot of interest in the history here, and it changed my vision of what the space should feel like. And I knew I wanted it to be a long, narrow space that felt like it was from Spain or somewhere in Europe, where people came in and sat down, and you can't help but have a conversation with the person next to you. It's not a place where you're going to come in and be a loner.
Right.
You're going to experience this energy of a lot of people around you. And I love that. And so I knew if I could capture that and make it a space that people walk into and they feel like, wow, this is an escape, and then other people are enjoying it, I felt like I had something.
Whoa, this is a thing.
Yes, exactly.
So you got to kind of go big. So talk to us about the history of this building, how it helped you.
When I found this space, I'd been looking for a couple of years, and I almost gave up. There were a lot of really interesting places, but nothing that felt like what I wanted. When I first saw this space, it was a disaster inside, but the bones were great. And so there was white carpet from the 1960s. So you're talking about 40-year-old white carpet.
So it wasn't super white anymore.
No, there was a black path to the cash register for the jewelry store that had been here since the 60s, I believe. So when we started gutting this place, I got a phone call. The owner of the building said, you need to come over here. We just found a trap door into a basement. We had no idea there was a basement there. So I came over. We all went down with our iPhone flashlights, rickety stairs. There's no electricity down there.
It's a Nancy Drew.
It is.
It's a Nancy Drew dream.
It's like a Disney movie or something, So we're shining our flashlights around, and the basement is packed with all these different items from the early 1900s on up. And I mean, jewelry, women's wear, sporting goods, shoes, paint, watches, all of this stuff. And it was just breathtaking. And so we started moving things around, and I found this huge shoe store sign, and I moved it to the side, and behind it, we literally just fell silent. There was a trunk, perfectly preserved, looked like it came off the Titanic or something. And we just sat there and looked at it. And I looked over at Robert Lewis, one of the owners, and I said, God, I hope that's full of money, because I need that. But no, we didn't know what is there, a body or something there? You have no idea. I went over, I gave them my phone. I walked over, opened it up. On top, it had those drawers, like the old style with the drawer on top.
Oh, yeah.
On that top part, there were all of these bank statements, IRS statements, all addressed to the same person from about 1902 on up. And we started digging through those. Phenomenal. Just letters after letter. Took the drawer off, got down to the bottom of it, and there was a lady's stationery box that we found. Perfectly preserved. And inside of that were all of her personal items. And there was, letters, a comb, newspaper clippings of family that had passed, and then one single calling card that said Lula Drake, and it was hand done in gold leaf. And Lula, had been the one that had signed all of those bank statements and everything. And I remember I had chills all over me, and I said, I have to call Lori because she's not going to believe this. So I sent her a text with the picture of the calling card. Before I could call her, she immediately called me and said, what is that? That's the most beautiful card I've ever seen. I said, it's the name in the building, because I had all these other names, all of these, every wine bar has some wine related name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she kept telling me, don't go down that road. The name is in the building. And I really didn't even know what she meant. And that's how this place became Lula Drake. And then we followed her history and, met her family, and she had a
and I'm
hat
sitting
shop
here looking at the gilded mirror behind. So you took that idea of Lula Drake, and this is basically her wine parlor in a way.
Yes.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Y'all, this place is great. I love it. I think Tim knows that. He was like, when am I going to be on the podcast? Because you're in here enough.
Exactly.
But I like this idea of allowing kind of the passion to kind of lead you to build things. And obviously film creates all this building too in a creative way. I mean, theoretically, you're building ideas, you're building films, you're building documentaries. And then here you're really building a community space, and then it kind of goes into the world and does its own thing. And
it does.
So it's done its own thing to the tune of a James Beard Award. And now, it's an established thing. So what is surprising about the Lula Drake journey for you, Tim, that it's kind of given back to you instead of you giving back to your hometown? Because you had this idea, I want to give to my town. I could do this anywhere. I want to do this here.
Wow, that really touches me in a way, because I have had time now that things are going well. I appreciate them while they do, because we all know the ups and downs of hospitality. But I can tell you that it's so special now, because when I started this, I really did not have the money to do it. And I borrowed some money from family, and we still did not have enough to do it right. But I have two amazing brothers who gave me a year of their weekends. We built these tables. We built the bar. We built all the cabinets. We did everything except the things that had to be permitted, like the bathrooms and things like that, electrical. And so that took a year of time.
We don't want you as an actor to work on the electrical.
No, you don't. But so I look back on that, and it was a time not only that I got to spend with my brothers doing that, but, this is literally our blood and sweat in here. Every time I come in and I touch a table, this is something I had to do with. That bar took me months to do correctly. So now for that to come around where we were wondering if we were going to make it year to year. And I knew 90% of the people for years that were coming in here, and I thank God for them. They kept us open. Now I don't know a lot of people. That's sweet and sad. It's sweet because financially it really helps us, obviously. But we're getting people from all over the United States, actually all over the world, and they know something about us. So for me, I didn't get into this to try to win awards, or I don't think anybody does that who's serious about hospitality.
Well, you won't win awards if you're getting in it not very long anyway, if you're in it just to win awards.
Exactly.
You just can't. You've got to be obsessed about something else.
Yeah.
Like wine,
I wanted to survive.
Yeah.
I wanted it to thrive so that people had a place like this in this city.
Right.
Because this city has been great to me. Honestly, when I moved back from California, I got divorced and my ex moved here with my daughter. And that was the reason I came back. And I thought the moment she's old enough, I'm getting on a plane and I'm either going to California or New York. And I can tell you, my mind was changed very quickly because of the people here. And everybody was hungry for, look, when you're squeezed between Charleston and Greenville, you don't want to be the place where people just stop off and get gas on the way to those destinations. So there was like this youthful energy that I had not seen before. And that's what's changing this city.
Okay, so you started us off with the rosé. What is the wine here at Lula Drake that you feel your Columbia people love the most?
Now or just throughout?
Whatever way you want to answer it.
I think champagne in general.
We like that.
Yeah, I'm a champagne fanatic. And so I try to share that as much as I can. And we go through a lot of different champagnes. And so what's interesting is now we have people that come in who know the style that they want, whether it's a Brut Nature or a demi-sec or whatever, they know that now. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's amazing.
And that requires personal introduction to it. There's no other way.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to share. Nobody's going to come in and order a $25 glass of champagne that they don't even know anything about, right?
Right. Yeah. So you got to give away a lot of those. I need to make sure I'm posted up next time for that.
We'll make that happen.
Well, I have to say, this has been a really big journey. And so despite that, though, your wheels are always turning. So what is making you hungry now? What are you going to do? Franchise?
Not going to franchise.
Woohoo! Yay.
But I can tell you, so I've obviously been asked this question a lot lately, but I will say you're the first person I'm going to say this to. There is life after Lula Drake.
Okay.
Things are finally starting to happen. I had some plans before COVID and everything got put on the back burner. And now after the last couple of months where I've had to super focus on Lula Drake, some other things are starting to line up and I'm excited.
Well, that's
about
great.
all I could say.
Hey, that sounds lovely and wonderful. And Lula Drake's not going anywhere.
No.
It is full of amazing and very grounded staff that are invested here as well.
The staff is so amazing. And one other thing that I'm really excited about. So Jessica Williams, who was the original bartender here, love her. She's amazing, amazing energy. She got married, moved to Portland, Maine. She's been gone for 3 years.
Great food scene.
Yes. Amazing. And she rose up in the ranks there and she's been doing really well. We talked the other day. They are moving back to the South. They want to be in the South and she's coming back to Lula Drake.
Well, there you go.
And I'm super excited because that's going to allow me to focus on some other things.
Awesome. It's all about the timing.
It is.
So what is one aspect of this job that you made up for yourself? You made up this job for yourself, Tim, that really meshes with a natural piece of your personality.
Walking behind that bar and meeting new people.
Yeah, you are an extrovert.
Only on stage. That is the truth.
So
when
it is
I
a
leave here, I
stage.
go home and I'm a hermit.
Uh-huh.
But for me, this is a stage and I love being able to come out and meet new people.
Yeah.
There's so many great stories. I want to hear what their thoughts are about the wine. I've met new friends here. I know I've gotten to meet their family and their friends and they bring them in. That to me is a night well spent.
Yeah, that's great. That's what places like this are for. That's why we need them. What is something that's keeping you up at night?
The world my granddaughter's growing up in, she's 8 months old. It's changed my life. Anybody who had a restaurant or a bar during the pandemic, was awful. Some of us made it, others didn't. So I worry about that.
I came here for the first time. I came to Columbia. I've been here a lot over the years, but I tried to come to Lula Drake maybe 21 and you weren't open.
Yeah, we were closed 16 months.
So I heard about you and I thought, ooh, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't figure out where you were because you were closed.
Yeah. It was awful. And I would walk in here and it's dark. You don't hear anybody. And, we all had our stories from the pandemic. And so, I worry about that, especially when we see cases starting to get higher in California. So I really hope that we find some way to deal with this. Mm-hmm. That keeps me up at night for sure. Those are the two main things, I think.
Those are big. Those are big. Well, I want to say a sincere thing, not a mic thing, that you have been very kind to me. And it has been a joy to get to know you behind the bar.
Thank you.
And to chat with you and get to learn about your palate from my side and see that you have Bruto Americano.
Yes, I love that shirt.
I'm wearing my t-shirt today. I always check a bar and I knew that I might not order it very often, but I like to know it's there because it means something particular in the conversation, the unspoken conversation that I'm having with the restaurant's, owner, basically, or the person that's ordering, at least. How about that? So I'm really grateful to have gotten to know you, and I'm excited to chat with you more off mic about all things nerdy wine. But
same here.
Today, I am really grateful to welcome you to the Southern Fork family of guests, and I am going to ask you my magic picnic basket question. So this is an opposite kind of question than a death row meal. Instead, I want to bring you some things in a picnic basket that bring you life. No, it doesn't have to be a picnic. You can put any combination of things in there. So with this basket, I can time travel. I can go back and ask anybody to make just one more bite of something you'd love to have. I can source for you, and I can cook a little bit. So I would love to put some things in that basket. I know it shifts and changes depending on the season, depending on what you're interested in, where you've traveled. But we always are thinking about that next meal. So what can I put in there today?
Wow. That changes daily, so I'll just pick today.
Sounds great.
Definitely champagne, maybe Agripart, Pascal Agripart. Just got some of those in, and they're just phenomenal wines. So difficult to find.
And what is that style for champagne?
It's all Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm.
He does natural fermentation. He's right up my alley.
Excellent.
And the wines are so fresh and delicious. Definitely a Barrico ham.
We'll slice it thick for you.
Okay, thank you.
No shaving behind the
There
bar.
you go.
Like, it's your picnic, so you can just make it nuggets if you want.
I love it. Let's see. Definitely an Amaro.
Mm-hmm.
Those I'm a huge fan. And then I love sourdough bread. I know that sounds so funny, but I mean, none of it makes sense. Like, it's not really a meal, but I'm thinking of the things that I love. I love caramelized onions. Keep it simple, but I mean...
Well, we can do a sandwich. We
there
can do
you go.
some
I love it.
baguettes. How about some really good salted butter with a Barrico ham?
I love it.
Caramelized onions and a copious amount of champagne.
I love that.
Okay.
I mean, I like the fancy stuff whenever I get a chance to have it, but I always go back to the basics.
Yeah, well, Barrico is kind of fancy, Tim.
That's true.
It's your basic.
Yeah. Okay.
So, my basic is bologna,
Ooh.
but Tim's basic is Iberico. But anyway, we'll leave that where it lies. Well, if you want to learn more about Lula Drake here in Columbia, South Carolina, you know where to go. Well, you can Google it, but you can also go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have links there as well as images so you can see the face behind the voice. If you like what you hear, there are more than 360 episodes in the archives, and there are multiple ones about wine because it's my number one beverage. My number one beverage is water, okay, and like unsweetened tea. But from the alcohol standpoint, I love a really good crisp white, be it Chablis, Albarino, or...
Mm-hmm.
I just had a really good Gruner this weekend, so that was lovely. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. It's been lovely.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. One of the things I love about wine is the idea that wine is grown in some of the most beautiful areas in the world. If you've ever been to a vineyard or a tasting room, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it is very different than, at least in my experience, my day-to-day American life, right? Rolling hills, beautiful vistas, and it feels like taking a vacation, especially when I am learning about the terroir of a place. So actually the soil of a place or the winemakers who are making it, then beyond just the taste of it and the deliciousness of it, I actually am getting a connection to a place that is not a place that is my normal everyday. And that is something that I have loved about food my whole entire life. It's not just wine, it's also food. And I knew that growing up in Charlotte, North Carolina, I would love to travel, and one of the ways that I could travel when I was little is by eating foods that were not like the food that my mom was making, or watching television shows like Yan Can Cooks, which was one of my favorite shows on PBS Food. Martin Yan was the host, and it was extremely good. I mean, I also loved, Reading Rainbow, and I really never missed an episode of Little House on the Prairie, but I digress. So food has always given me a portal to cultures beyond my own, and that is something that's really important to me here at the Southern Fork. There are 2 new experiences right now on thesouthernfork.com/experiences that may provide you just that. Next week in Charleston, Sandra Gutierrez, award-winning cookbook author and one of the most celebrated experts on Latin American foodways, is joining me for 2 special events. One, on Tuesday evening, we are going to be recording a live podcast. She's also going to be doing a book signing. There are going to be some beverage treats, and we also are going to enjoy a cooking demo by her. And then the next day, there are still a few spots left for an intimate, hands-on cooking class with Sandra Gutierrez in a beautiful space that you heard about at the beginning of the show, Stolan Food Lab. That cooking class is going to culminate in an extravaganza of a wine lunch. So this is a wonderful way to spend a midweek morning in Charleston, South Carolina. So if you are visiting or in Charleston next week, I hope you will join me for one or both of these events. Sandra is a wonderful teacher. I'm excited to bring her to Charleston, and I hope that you will join us. So until I chat with you again, I am going to say cheers. And as Tim would suggest, there is nothing better to cheers with than champagne. So cheers. I will be right here on the mic with you again next week.
You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you going to eat all that?